The things that you take for granted today will become luxuries in the near future. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. In today's video, we are going to talk about energy. Energy is something that you flip the switch, it turns the light on, everything is good, and you ignore it for the most part until those days when you don't have it. But what about brownouts? What about blackouts? What about the shortages? All of that is now becoming front and center, and we will cover all of this today, beginning right here. Chevron says California plays a risky game with climate and gasoline. Chevron warns its home state California climate policies are a dangerous game that risks causing gasoline price spikes and shortages. Now, while I'm not just talking about this one particular aspect of gasoline, but that's the one people feel. Obviously, when you go to the pump, you see it. You see it visually. And that's the type of thing that people talk about at the water cooler. They feel that every single week, potentially. And now that has really changed a lot with people that are working from home. They're spending a lot less on their gasoline. And they're not too happy when the boss has told them, oh, by the way, you got to come back into work. Now, this is something that I just want to highlight. Keep this in mind. It doesn't matter if you're living in one place or another, but everyone's kind of experiencing higher prices. If you're in California, obviously much higher than if you were in Texas, for instance. But compare that to what we see in Canada. Compare that to what we see in parts of Europe, where the prices are much, much higher, okay? And you have to start understanding what's happening with energy, but broaden out, zoom out, and you will see something. It's that we are beginning to have to become comfortable, or perhaps just dealing with it and not becoming comfortable with restricted access to resources. And that is our future, whether we like it or not. And that's why the two pillars of prosperity, yes, there's the income portion, which we talk a lot about here. It's the money GPS. But the other portion is preparedness. I have a video called Pillars of Prosperity. You type in Pillars of Prosperity, the money GPS talks all about that. But there are those two pillars. And if you're not prepared, well, you're basically just waiting, hoping, and praying for somebody else to come and save you, because we're on this trajectory that essentially states there will be restrictions in what you can access. We saw a little bit of that in an extreme scenario in 2020, but I don't think that's the end of it. What about the proposed ban on gas-powered small off-road engines? What are we talking about here? Well, this is like, you see those landscapers, they'll be using the riding mowers, and they go from one place to another doing so. It's not that only, by the way. A lot of others. The rule also applies to pumps, pressure washers, golf carts, and other equipment under 25 horsepower. And that's something very significant because, like, if you got endless cash, you can do that. Okay, I'll just buy new equipment. No big deal. Not an issue. You got to use the electric. Okay, we'll do that. But how many people are running their pressure washer business that can't afford that can't upgrade because they just don't have that income coming through? Okay, that's going to hurt a lot of people. So you can see what's happening here. There's going to be bigger businesses that swallow up the small ones, or they simply just go away and the bigger businesses take all of the business. And we saw that again during 2020. Oh, mom and pop shop, you can't operate. No, no, no. Oh, but the big businesses, the Best Buys of the world, absolutely, you're good to go. That's the kind of thing we could be seeing on a wide scale. Of course, we have the Red Sea crisis that's going on at this time, which has been, prolonged much longer than it would have, it was expected to, at least at the beginning here. And the prices of these containers have gone up once again. We're not back to the 2020 levels, but it is getting very hot. And that's a problem because, of course, delays, because, of course, if you're going to increase prices, that's going to create a problem. And is this another round of inflation? Is this part of it? Well, we'll see. Not every route is affected by it. But it does impact a lot. I mean, you'd be surprised how much is really impacted at this point. Gas addicted Europe trades one energy risk for another. And what happened here? Obviously, highly dependent, Europe being highly dependent on Russia. We need that gas. And then one day they basically say, okay, we're going to cut Russia off. But we didn't figure out how we're going to get our own gas. They made a deal with Qatar. Ah, that's right. Let's do a deal with Qatar. Okay, when does that deal start? 2026. Okay, that's a problem. What are we going to do in the meantime? Oh, we're going to get that gas from the United States. Very good for the United States, of course, for those companies anyway, selling that. But you got to put it on a ship and you got to bring it inefficiently over the sea and into Europe. Well, that's okay. It's better than nothing, right? At least you got your gas. But now they don't have this reliability. They've got problems, and I'm sure costs have risen as a result of all of this. Never rely on one partner for anything in this world. Okay, doesn't matter this whole near shoring, friend shoring, all of this stuff. You've got to have multiple partners always. Europe moves into a new world after a crippling energy crisis. Gas prices are down less than a tenth of their 2022 peak. High gas reserves mean the market is relatively calm about the risks. Could be, right? Well, here you can see the prices on this chart. Europe's gas prices are far below their crisis peaks. That is good. We don't want to see them go back there. But the point is, we haven't resolved the crisis in the first place. So you, the individual, are taking the biggest risk because we're just sitting ducks. Oh, I hope they figure out that energy thing so I don't have to pay that much money as I did last time. Nobody is self-sufficient these days, or at least partially self-sufficient. Right? Look at this. 150 years of exports. And why there's multiple reasons why I'm showing you this. Do you notice the big difference? Well, obviously China, massive change over the years, no question about it. But the UK, you see, at one point, super dominant many years ago. And that has been shrinking over time, getting more narrow and narrow as time goes on. You see, just like a reserve currency, things do take a while. Things can change. And do you think that many years ago in the year, let's just round it, 1900, do you think people were saying, oh yeah, the UK, it's going to be a much smaller piece of the pie and China is going to take over? I mean, they would have laughed at them. They would have called them crazy if they would have said in 100 years from now, we're going to be dealing with this. Of course not. But that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with today, okay? Just remember that the way things are today are not going to be the situation tomorrow, and that's why it's best to be prepared at all times. The next generation of nuclear reactors is getting more advanced. All right, they're talking about alternate ways of powering, cooling, constructing reactors could help get more nuclear energy on the grid. And this is important, of course, assuming it's done properly, that there is more demand. We need more energy. We absolutely need more energy. And what do they do typically? They've got big problems with energy. It's always a factor. It's always a factor. But where is it coming from? If you bring it a very far distance, resistance in the line reduces that. The costs are too high in some cases, many cases. We need to reduce the cost of energy and get more energy usage. That would be the perfect scenario. And yet it seems like it's the opposite. But nuclear could be it could be that one thing that enables countries to get cheaper access to energy, and potentially with these modular nuclear reactors, put them in places where we couldn't have it before. And now we can start to develop infrastructure in areas that, wasn't really abundant before. Good stuff. We could have good stuff. Are they going to move in that direction? I don't know. At least, there's some positive news there. Occidental CEO sees oil supply crunch from 2025. Quote, 2025 and beyond is when the world is going to be short of oil. We're not doing enough digging. We're not doing enough exploration, and all the rigs and things that are there, they're suggesting that, they're drying up. Now, of course, when they say drying up, what does that mean? I believe the number is 60%. So they say, okay, this oil well, it's dry. Apparently, 60% of that is still in the ground, but we don't have the technology, or it's too expensive to extract the rest of that 60%. So that tells you that it's really just a factor of enabling new technologies to then get that. Is it in the form of oil, or is it going to be some other type of energy? We'll see what happens. But supply crunch, you can argue in some cases, maybe it's just artificial scarcity. Largest lithium deposit in the world suspends output. This was actually from a couple of weeks ago from Chile. And all you need to know here is that it doesn't matter how big or small, if we are reliant on one thing, it could be disrupted at one point. All right. What I would love everybody to do is to join my live classes, the Money GPS Finance Live, especially relevant to this video, where I get into it for 2 hours every single Friday, where I get into the nitty-gritty, the deep intel that you need to know, so that you, the individual, can be the most informed, ahead of the curve, ahead of everybody else. That's 2 hours every single Friday. And I hope you join me. Link is in the description. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up button on the way out. I want to thank you for being here today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.